If you haven't figured out by now, Georgia is quite literally the definition of a cockroach. If you do not kill it on the initial strike, it ain't gonna die. It simply will find a way to survive. Survive in advance. Georgia 24, Florida 20 in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party for the last time played in Jacksonville. And by the way, Georgia is more than just a cockroach, but you get the theory. Welcome on into the SEC Unfiltered postgame show. It's Cole Thompson. Like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, link in the description. Check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're proudly brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Go visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. It's simple. The app is easy to use. Sign up today at FANDUEL.com/SECU. To my Florida brethren out there, well-fought game. And we're going to talk about the play. We're going to talk about the two plays. But as always, we start off with the winners in the chat. Georgia had opportunities to really kind of pull this game away. And it did show some weaknesses that I think that now Texas, that I think that now Georgia Tech, I think that several other teams that you face off against could use that as an advantage against you. But what have we said about Georgia the entire year? What has everybody said about Georgia the entire year? When you get them, you better kill them. Knock them out of the running before they even get a chance to get back up. Tennessee tried to do it, and then they didn't. And then we saw Auburn try to do it, and then they didn't. And then we saw somehow, some way, Ole Miss be able to go toe-to-toe with them offensively, and then they fell apart. And that's just kind of the situation this year with Georgia. They're flawed. They have their faults. There are things that they're never going to be able to correct. But if you don't do your part and deliver the performance and give everything that you have to knock them out, you give them an opportunity to respond. And the response mechanism coming out of the second half break was ultimately, in my opinion, where you kind of knew that Georgia was back in this game. Now, Florida had its opportunities. Florida certainly was able to go ahead and kind of drive. But that drive, once again, we talked about it after the Tennessee game. I'll talk about it right here. Gumming out in the third quarter and to be able to get the forced 3 and out, 5 plays, a couple of big-time strikes, Zachariah Branch for the 42-yard score, and then a shot downfield to Noah Thomas stepping on up in place of Kobe Young. That, my friends, is where Georgia works at its best. There are 3 things that you know about a Kirby Smart-led team. Number 1, they physically want to get after you on hard downs. Number 2, they love to run the football. Number 3, second half adjustments are the biggest atmosphere and why they find a way to always win games. That was it. And what did we see? By the way, I know your Andy pick was wrong. Get over it, first and 12 ounces. Bye-bye. What did we see? We saw the ability to create second chance opportunities on the ground. We saw Gunnar Stockton play with a little bit of pizzazz. We saw when there were a moment for them to have to go ahead and step on up, they were able to deliver. Remember, Florida jumped up to a 3-point lead. They had a 3 and out on the very next drive. Defensively, you had to go again and get a stop. This is where it was all for the game. If Florida is able to convert on 4th down in that stance, my goodness, that's probably a win. That is where Florida finds a way to hold out and advance. And they probably at least get a touchdown in that stance, or at least a field goal to where you're going to make it a 2-score game. They end up getting the stop. That's what Georgia does. That's where Georgia is responsive. That's where Georgia goes ahead and finds a way to beat you. And then they go off to the races. 7 plays, 82 yards, 318. They go ahead and put the lead in. Chauncey Bones, great day. Fantastic. That was where it was phenomenal, in my opinion. That was one of the best parts of the moments. His overall atmosphere, his overall intake on what the game was. 9 carries, 70 yards, 7.81 yards per play. 3 runs of over 50 yards downfield. That is, in my opinion, what was a big difference in this matchup. The ability to trust your rushing attack for the long run and the explosives. Now, Jaden Ball had a couple of big-time runs. DJ Lang had a couple of big-time runs. But you were able to trust your lead running back on critical drives to be able to keep moving it forward. Keep putting yourself in a position to be successful. Gunnar Stockton, he had a bad interception. Really late throw, behind the line. Probably should have been an incompletion. Ball was caught. But the response mechanism to be able to lead your drives, to be able to trust your legs, to be able to create second chance opportunities downfield. This is where, again, we're watching him be able to grow and develop in front of our eyes. Now, again, there are some weaknesses for Georgia. And I've talked about this many times on the reaction shows. I'll say it again. Right now, when you look at Georgia, they're able to fight their way back against other teams, quality teams, ones that we know that are a little bit more of a higher standing. that is where they will find a way to come up short. And I think that there is a full-on ceiling when it comes to Georgia this year. Playoff team. Absolute playoff team. Maybe even winning in the first round. But the way that they were not able to get out of the gates early after that touchdown, the way that they allowed Florida to respond immediately, that's an issue. But you're not going to complain about it. You're going to be able to figure out a way to just continue to win and stockpile up victories and put yourself in a better position. You got 3 more chances to go 11-1. Texas, Charlotte, Georgia Tech. And I can promise you this, you're going to win one of them. You probably could win 2, and I won't be shocked if you win 3. But still, there is a part of me that looks at Georgia and goes, something's not right. It's good. It's fine. You're going to win. You put yourself in a position to where, hey, it's a rivalry game. It's a neutral site field. Whatever you want to go ahead and say at that standpoint, I get it. But I still have my questions and my doubts. Especially when it comes to yards after contact, like we saw at times with Florida's running game. Especially when it comes to yards after the play when you allow them to get a couple of explosives downfield. Especially when you allow Eugene Wilson to go for $121 and average 13.4 yards a play. Don't get me wrong, one of them is on a 40-yard blast, but still, you get my drift, is that there are still some weaknesses. But there were moments that you needed to see people step on up, and they did. There were moments that you needed to see Georgia be able to deliver defensively, and they did, especially in coverage. Ella Robinson, it was a bold move to go ahead and play down by Trey Wilson instead of going over the top against number 4. But you were able to read and react to it. You were able to understand, hey, if I make this play, we put ourselves in a position to where we can go ahead and ice it, win the game, no questions asked. Big time play. Chauncey Bowens to be able to get creating opportunities after contact and move your feet to just pile on forward. Good job. What you want to see from your lead running back, Gunnar Stockton, to be able to deliver on 3rd down. Pretty good day. No one's going to complain about how you looked at the office this afternoon. There were things he got correct. Certainly some things he got to work on, but Zachariah Branch playing the hero role. Noah Thomas coming on in clutch for that for that one big time 22-yard strike. It was interesting. It's a good game plan. Not a game plan that I thought you were going to win and how you're going to win it, but you still found a way to win it. And if I sound a little bit annoyed, well, at the same time, I did have Georgia at -7.5 and see him take the knee at the 1-yard line. It's like a knife in the back of your throat. Like you just know, oh, here's where it comes through, and then you're dead. Just right there. Now on to Florida. Florida came out swinging. I thought that the way they played underneath Billy Gonzalez once again showed that there is more fight in that locker room. And I think the biggest thing that you can take away is that there are pieces on that roster that you can see clear as day with the right head coach leading the charge. They're going to be in the playoff if they want to retain as much talent as possible and they don't go out and try to bring in all their own new names. That's something that you have to know about Florida. Florida, to me, was always a team that when you looked at it from a roster conglomerate standpoint, top 12 roster in college football. And there were moments that you saw today. Jaden Baugh to be able to run for 78 yards. Big time game. Big time running back. Eugene Wilson stepping on up to the party, having a 100-yard day. To replace Dallas Wilson, who went out in the first half and didn't respond and didn't come back, big time day. Defensively, you got ball players that will get after the quarterback and be able to win one-on-ones, be able to stop the run, because they did that in the first half. And that's why it was such a low-scoring affair. That's why it was 10-10. That's why you needed to see a response mechanism in the second half from Georgia coming out swinging. You also saw Billy Gonzalez, I think, kind of take over that locker room and say, we're Florida. We have house money to play with. We don't really care about how the rest of our season goes. Let's just go ahead and play the spoiler role. And I've come to the realization, Florida probably wouldn't have fired Billy Napier if they would have hired a play caller. Like, if I can just be completely honest at this point, if Florida would have gone out and actually forced Billy to bring in a play caller and let him just be the head coach, he probably would have been coached on Saturday. In fact, I can almost guarantee you he would have been coached on Saturday. But unfortunately, he decided to get in his own way, and that's what you can't have with the next head coach. Somebody who gets in their own way when there's this much talent, and it's clear that the separation gap between you from a roster standpoint is not by much. It's an execution standpoint. It's a leadership standpoint. It's the little details behind the closed doors that you talk about when it comes to workouts, when it comes to practice, when it comes to film study, things that you just need to have as a direct leader, and the humility to be able to make changes when it's not working. And that didn't happen for Billy Napier, because the talent that we saw today to be able to respond and eventually take leads over Georgia makes Florida, in my opinion, still a team that has all the pieces and ducks in a row to where it feels like just get the right guy in the building, you're going to be in a playoff run. I won't be shocked at all if you're in a playoff run. But there's two things that we got to talk about here. The first one is the play calling on 4th down. It's 4th and 1, and you hand it off to Jaden Baugh. Now, I love Jaden Baugh. For all of you who've watched the channel for years, you know that I am a big Jaden Baugh fan. I think that he is a player that absolutely needs to see more action. And thankfully, you got the ball to him, 17 times in this game? I'll take that as a win. 15 times. My apologies. It's not the best numbers, but you'll take that as a win. You did that against Texas. It got you a win. I don't understand when you have a 6'3", 240-pound quarterback, you're not doing a QB sneak in that standpoint. Because if you let him utilize his legs, the game could be over. Or at least you put yourself in a position to where it's a fresh set of downs, and the next point you walk away with at least 3. You didn't do that. So I really hated the play calling on that standpoint. It was something that I just could not get behind. I thought if you had second chance opportunities to review it, I'm okay with you not going for the field goal right then and there. But maybe just go ahead and use the quarterback design run here. Maybe that's where the standpoint should be. Then we got to talk about the catch. Folks, from my own advantage point, from where I was sitting on my couch, that was a catch. I thought without a doubt that was a catch. However, what I can't deal with anymore is hearing people consistently say we're blaming the refs for this one. The refs are there. Unfortunately, we live in a day and age in society where countless games are going to be messed up because of bad officiating. This is not uncommon. This has happened in week 4. This has happened in week 7. This has happened in week 9. It's now week 10. And every single Saturday, I get on the internet and I see people complaining about the officiating. I see people complaining in wins about the officiating. So the best way to guarantee that you don't have yourself in a position to where you're trusting the Zebras to make a call is to leave no doubt. And the thing is that we can talk about what an impressive play it was for J. Michael Sturtevant to turn around and be at the right spot. But we can also say it was a drastically underthrown ball by DJ Lgaway, who, if he hits him in stride, it's a touchdown. That's just the bottom line. And you can't even argue with that. Where is the defender in place? Anywhere around Florida receiver. Where? Because I didn't see one. And I can guarantee you, if you go back and look at the replay, there was no one around. If you hit the quarterback in stride, it ends up being for 6. It was a low-thrown ball. It was an underthrown ball. And you left it up to the Zebras, who called it initially on the field an incomplete pass to hopefully give you a second chance. Hopefully figure things out. You can't do that on Saturdays anymore. If the one thing that I can take away after watching multiple games this season is that the second that you turn to the refs and say, you got to bail us out of trouble, you've already lost the fight. You lost the fight in that standpoint because you left doubt on the field. That was it. And now we got to talk about DJ Lgaway. Lgaway finishes the day with a respectable 166 yards, 24 or more on the ground, big 26-yard run, 1 touchdown. He hasn't been properly coached. He hasn't been put in a position to where I think he has been totally successful. He's been dealing with multiple injuries. All of those things are true. But we're not seeing the development. And we're not seeing him take those necessary jumps forward. And we're not seeing him be properly put in a position to where we're going to see signs of life. Whoever is the next head coach needs to have a legit conversation about what is going to be the status of DJ Lgaway in Florida for 2026 and beyond. It has to be a conversation. And the other thing that has to be a conversation is, do you want to bring in your own guy? Because I would understand it. There's nothing right now that I'm looking at from Lgaway that says, after countless bad throws, terrible timing, and certain things that definitely should not be happening for a player who has over a dozen starts underneath his belt at this point in his career, should still be making. That's just the case. There were multiple reads that were wide on open. The 4th down play that I was talking about, where Ellis Robinson makes a jump on the football and goes and brings down Trey Wilson. He blocks out of his hands. Do you notice he was streaking down the sideline for a gain of 25? Would have converted, would have kept the play alive. Number 4, he was there. All you had to do was survey the field one more time. Boom, he's right there. And I get it. Hindsight's 20/20. At the time, you just want to go ahead and convert. But you look back, you can see it clear as day. He's right there. Decision-making has been dreadful at times in critical moments for Florida this year. The near fumble that probably should have been called a fumble, but wasn't called a fumble because his arm was going down and it ricocheted off. But because of his arm went down first, they decided to leave it on the field. So again, little things like that. You don't need to be having these type of turnovers. You don't need to be losing the ball in that standpoint. And we're still seeing it happen. We are. There were multiple drives to where you had Michael Sturtevant open. There were multiple moments where you had Trey Wilson open. And trust me, Georgia did a good job of taking away Hayden Hansen, taking away the tight end game, and not making sure that anybody else was available. And it was the 3 show. But you had opportunities to build a repertoire with your receivers, and you just couldn't find them in stride. And that's okay. That's okay if you think that he hasn't been properly coached. You think that there is more than meets the eye. There are still things that he's dealing with behind closed doors. But when the new coach comes on in, you have to have a serious chat on, do you think that this is the right guy to run my system? Because the next guy that comes on into Florida is going to have an opportunity. What I walked away with watching today was a team that does feel like if you just fix a few things, you're in the game against Miami, you're in the game against LSU, you never lose to South Florida, and this is your second loss in the year, and you have a massive upset win over Texas. You're right back in this thing. And that comes down to coaching. The roster construction is there. But do you have the quarterback? And those are two of the most important things that you need to solve every single offseason if you want to be considered a good team. You have to have the right coach with the right play caller, and you have to have the right quarterback to run the show. If you can do that, you are well in advance on the way to having a successful year ahead of you. And I don't know if Lgaway is going to be that guy. I don't think that he is a bad quarterback. I think that there are things that he can absolutely fix to where he maybe goes and gets a fresh start elsewhere. It'll end up being promising towards his career. Absolutely. I could see that happen. Happens all the time in this sport where a guy just needs to go ahead and hit reset and he ends up becoming a first-round pick or he ends up being better than advertised. That might be the reality for a team like Florida when it comes to DJ Lgaway because I know the defense is still going to have studs. I know the offensive line is going to be a work in progress, but we're going to be able to fix that. I know I got a dude in Dallas Wilson who's a standout. I know I got a Jaden Baugh who's a standout. I got players that are going to be continuously making play after play after play and putting us in a position to be successful. But I don't know if I got the quarterback in the building. And honestly, if DJ Lgaway does come back and he wants to win the starting job, that's fine. But notice what I said there. Win it. It's an open competition, in my opinion, going into next year. It has to be. There are far too many things that I'm noticing with his game that aren't translating enough time to be able to make it feel like that we are just missing him. That's kind of where we are. Hate to be that guy. For Georgia, you stay alive for another week. You find a way to respond. You punch it down the throat at the very last second. And you end it with a mercy kill by kneeling and not going ahead and hitting the -7.5 or the over in the game, which, again, there's a couple people out there, especially those in Vegas, who are a little bit mad at you. But regardless, you found a way to answer. Florida, you found a way to fight. I'm just tired of just hearing how you found a way to fight, especially in this game, one where you've won it one time in 5 years, where you haven't really been in control for the last decade plus. Don't you really get tired of hearing about that? That's just my 2 cents. We're getting on out of here in a second. Do you think that Billy G has a chance? He learned under Urban and Diamante. He's well educated in the history of Florida. Ace, I think that he will be on the staff next year. I think that one of the biggest things that you're going to look at is a guy like Billy G, who's going to be told by the next head coach, you're coaching somewhere on my offense. It could be wide receivers, it could be tight ends, but I need you for a recruiting standpoint, and I need you from a culture standpoint. I don't think that he's leaving Gainesville. It was a big-time deal that he was brought back over when Dan was hired. It's a big-time deal that he was there with Urban. It's a big-time deal that he was there with Billy Napier. So I don't worry about that one at all. I don't. Gotta quit blaming the reps. Yeah, you do. You have to get over it if you're a Florida fan. Because constantly you can look back on every single play that said, the ref screwed us out of this one, the ref screwed us out of this one, the ref screwed us out of this one. And I can say, yeah, well, DJ Lgaway didn't make this read, and the play calling here was cardboard crap, and the ability of Georgia to be able to pressure your running game kind of took you out, made it a 2nd and 15 when it should have been a 2nd and 8. Like, you can talk about that. That's what it is. Let me see. That was a catch, man. This is crazy. I thought it was a catch. I really did. But the problem is you can't sit here and say, oh, well, it's got to be a catch. It has to be a catch. Okay. The second that you give the refs any opportunity to give the game away to you, they take it. Again, it's week 10, guys. The refs are not changing. Unless we see overnight Greg Sankey come out and say, I'm going to pay millions of dollars to be able to go ahead and turn this thing into full-time officiating, then I don't believe that we're going to see that change anytime soon. You're going to get the same guys that we've seen the last 2 years that have constantly put yourselves in a position to where you call games. And that's a travesty. I'll be the first to say it. It's bad for the game of football to watch as several plays and several matchups can be determined by 1 or 2 people who don't clearly know what they're doing. I can admit to that. It's very frustrating. But what would you like to say at this point? What would you like to say that's going to change it? Because again, it's every single Saturday or Sunday. We come on this show, and we come on every single show across the country, and all I hear is blame the refs, blame the refs, blame the refs. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and also blame your mother, blame your father, blame your brother, blame your sister on how you turned out. I mean, you can't just do all that. Sometimes you got to take responsibility. You gave an opportunity for someone to make a play and put the fate out of your hands. We don't talk enough about how it was an underthrown ball. We're not talking enough about how if you hit J. Michael Sturdivant in stride, it's a touchdown. But you just want to go ahead and blame the refs because that's where it is. Georgia's really not that good. They showed it. The refs wouldn't have screwed us out of something. It would have been called a game we would have wanted. But of course, it's always happens. Again, guys, you can't be blaming officials on every single thing when things don't go your way. If it's one play at the very last second when time expires, by all means, blame the officials all you want. Clemson's a perfect example today. So Clemson, for those of you that didn't see how things went down in the ACC, let me just paint you a little picture. Clemson had a 4th down stop against Duke. And Duke, a team that actually I picked to win the game, so not really saying I'm upset about, but Duke, they ended up grabbing number 8 to stop a defensive interception. And the officials said at that standpoint, down by 7, we're going to give a fresh set of downs to Duke. They're not going to get a second chance. They scored. They lost the football game. Clemson did not have enough to respond because the time was barely out. And it became a 46-45 finish. They went for the 2-point conversion. They got the 2-point conversion. They won the football game. That's a play to where you can 100% come to me and say, a ref official screwed it for us. Yeah, they did. Not this one. Because if you don't worry about that one play happening, just that one, you find a way to win. Because I can easily look back and just say to you, hey, well, if you make a different play call on 4th down with DJ Lgaway running the football and you don't worry about the spotting to go ahead and bail you out of trouble, you win that play too. And that ends up helping you win the football game. But again, we can't always put it on the officials. It comes down to us. It was a bad throw from DJ Lgaway. It was a hell of an effort for J. Michael Sturdivant. It was a bad play design from Billy Gonzalez and the play caller, Callaway, who was running the show. And there were things that went south that put them in a position to where eventually Georgia was able to capitalize. They went down 7 plays. They found their way into the end zone. They responded. That's it. That's all you can say on that one. We're going to end the live stream here. We'll be back after Tennessee versus Oklahoma. But I want to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. Guys, Florida, they're going to find a new head coach pretty soon. It's going to actually happen within the next, what is it going to be? 2 months? Well, you can bet on those odds right now at FanDuel.com/SECU. Who do you think is going to take on over? Will it be Lane Kiffin? Will it be Eli Drinkowitz? Will Billy Gonzalez be an option? Well, if you want to make that bet, go on over to FanDuel.com/SECU. Sign out today. Get $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. If you are a Bulldog fan, here's what you can do. You can go on over to FanDuel.com/SECU. Go throw some money down on you to win the SEC championship. Because if still with only one conference loss, very well in this race. Go like, review, subscribe. Head on over to FanDuel.com/SECU. Get started today with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. We'll be back after Tennessee versus Oklahoma. Georgia, 24. Florida, 20. Finding a way to survive. Name of the game, name of the storyline of what happened down in Jacksonville for the final time until 2028. Yeah, maybe we can just move the campuses from here on out. Peace.